Welcome to the second video on non-probability sampling. In our last video, we have understood what is non-probability sampling, and we were able to see that it falls in two broad categories: convenience and purposive sampling. And purposive sampling has many subforms. We started with modal instance sampling, and then we moved towards expert sampling. In this video, we are going to cover other methods falling under purposive sampling. So let's start with quota sampling first. As you could see, the word quota itself wants some kind of fixing criteria. If you want to select people, let's say on quota sampling, you assign some fixed quota or rule that how you are going to select. So you have normally two types of quota sampling. One is called proportional and the other one is called non-proportional sampling. The basic idea between the difference between the two is that of when you want to retain the characteristics of the population, that how the elements are divided into their percentage representation or the proportional representation of different elements, you wish to retain that, then you go ahead with proportional quota sampling. If you do not want to, if inclusion of different member is your main idea and you are not worried about to what numbers or proportional they represent, then you go ahead with non-proportional sampling, quota sampling. Let me give you an example. Let's say there is a population which has, let's say, 40% women and 60% men, and if you want to conduct a quota sampling, a proportional quota sampling on this space, let's say you want to select 100 people out of this population using quota sampling method. If you go ahead with proportional quota sampling method, you will ensure that out of this 100, 40 are women and the rest of them, that is 60, should be men. So that is to do with proportional sampling, proportional quota sampling. Whereas in non-proportional quota sampling, it is less restrictive. Like in the other previous case, we have to actually we were concerned about two things. One is that the proportional representation should be retained in the sample space, whereas here that is not the criteria. You just want to specify minimum number of sampled units which you want in each category. So for 100 you could let's say in the previous example itself, let's say if we have chosen at least 50 of members should be there, so 50 men and 50 women, that is through non-proportional quota sampling. Why do we want to go ahead with non-proportional quota sampling? Simply because there could be populations where we in different social research scenarios, we have a problem of inclusion, right? So there could be majority group and there could be minority. So many a times if the minority group is so small fraction of the population, let's say 3%, 4%, that there are good chances that they are not included in the study. So even if they are sampled, you get less and less number of them. So that is why it is important to fix some kind of quota. So let's say even if there are minority, majority, if you say in a sample of, let's say, 100, there is one majority group of, let's say 40, or and there are 20, let's say you fixed it 25 or 25 as the criteria, not less than 25 members. So 25 from majority, 25 from the minority group 1, 25 from the third minority group. So what you are doing here is you are just trying to ensure that there is adequate representation of different portions of population. So that is what you are interested in, adequate representation of the members or the categories into the sample. The next is heterogeneity sampling. So heterogeneous sample, let's begin with the same logic. Our idea is to include all opinions or views. So it's not about the proportion or the number of people, but it is about generating ideas or opinions. So heterogeneity sampling is we also know this sampling by another name called sampling for diversity. So maybe a typical brainstorming session or nominal group session, including concept mapping, you could use some form of heterogeneity sampling. Why? Because your idea is your primary interest in to getting a broad spectrum of ideas, not identifying average or model instance ones. So we are not interested in typical case, we are interested in we are actually paying attention to this diversity, that how diverse a population is. So what it translates to, in a way you are not interested in sampling people, rather ideas are your main concern. So if you wish to have different set of ideas or broad spectrum of idea, you should go ahead with heterogeneity sampling. And as you could see, inclusion of different diverse group is the real thing. You could imagine that there is a universe of all possible ideas relevant to some topic, and you want to sample this population. That's it. So you should go ahead with heterogeneity sampling and heterogeneity or diversity sampling. So you are interested in number of ideas, and especially you are interested in the outliers or unusual ones also. So including a broad and diverse range of participants is your idea. Heterogeneity sampling is, in a way, is almost the opposite of model instance sampling, because model instance sampling you talk about typical case, and typical case which actually by and large what is the characteristic of sample, or who could be where you could see that there is maximum likelihood of getting some kind of response. So it is more to do with general case, whereas heterogeneity sampling is actually talking about the opposite. So it's not about a typical case, it is about having as diverse, as broad spectrum of ideas as possible. The last one is the snowball sampling, and snowball sampling, as you could relate it, if you could see that how this name has come. Snowball, as the snowball slopes down the hill, it accumulates snow, and it goes bigger and bigger. So what you actually do in such a space, there are different social situations where it is very difficult to reach a set of people because they are simply inaccessible or hard to find. So in that case, you actually start with those people who are actually falling in that category. Let's say if you are studying the homeless, you are not likely to be able to find a good list of homeless people. So what you could do, you could start with, let's say, identifying a specific geographical area. You identify some homeless people, and then you ask them that please help us with if you could know if there are other homeless people as well, please take us there. And this is how you build this logic. So from whom you are actually collecting your responses, actually they are referring you to other people's belonging in or falling in the same category, right? So that is to do with the snowball sampling. So this is all in this video. Keep watching. Thank you very much.